Here's my story. Be 16. Be black and have a family down in Alabama. They farm and own a huge amount of land down in Huntsville. Uncle owns a big house and a bunch of trailers they put out in the woods for hunting and camping. Down south, cousins suggest that we go out there to camp. No, I'm a city kid from Chicago, so they tease the fuck out of me. Collect food, kill a pig and some chickens, and bring necessities to camp out for a few days. We get to camp and it's obvious something is weird. Air has this weird electric smell like right before a storm, like ozone. We think nothing of it and unpack and go down to a little creek to swim for a few hours. All of a sudden, some older white guy and a white teenager come out of the bushes. He has a shotgun in the crook of his arm and says hello and asks us what we're doing this far back in the woods. Tell him about my uncle, who he knows, and say we're camping out. He tells us we need to be real careful out here and stick together because there was a big animal in the woods. His son, who is my age, asks if he can stay and hang out with us. He says okay. I'm going to stop green texting because the story is fairly long and the format is harder to write in. So we end up playing football, dicking around with me. There's this white kid, Tanner, 5 of my cousins, and then 4 of their friends in total. There were 5 girls and 6 boys. We were all around 15 to 17, and we ended up just dicking the day away. Eventually, we headed back to camp and pulled out some of the stuff for a campfire, even though the trailers both had kitchenettes. Tanner says that his family's property sits up against my uncle's. We want to run home and ask his dad if he can come hang out and come camping with us. My cousin, Rooster, says he's going to go with them since it's going to get dark soon. One of the girls also wants to tag along. It's about 7 o'clock, and it's starting to get pretty dark. They grab flashlights and take the trail towards Tan's property. The rest of us chill and make s'mores, drink, and kiss on the girls. About 30 or 40 minutes later, there's the smell of ozone again. You could notice it over the scent of the fire we had started, this really nasty, coppery smell. Like right after you've had a nosebleed and it's stopped. It wasn't exactly like dried blood, but it was that metallic, back of your throat smell. We immediately think that it's some kind of electrical malfunction or that someone left a hot plate on or some shit. We search the trailers and nothing's on, but we all can smell it. All of a sudden, we can hear people booking it down the path towards us. Rooster, Tan, and the girl all come running into the clearing out of breath, and they don't even break stride. They all run into the trailer, right by where the fire is. We all get the fuck out of there and into the trailers. They end up calming down. Even Rooster is crying his fucking eyes out at this point, while the fire is guttering lower and lower. So my other cousin says, fuck it, and are about to go out to get the generator out of the shed between the trailers. Tanner goes, fuck no, lock the front door, ain't nobody going outside. He's been crying too. His eyes are bloodshot and puffy, and his pants are dirty as shit. He goes on to tell us that they went up to his house. His father said sure, he could go camping, but to make sure that we were careful on the way back. And that maybe they should take one of the hunting rifles just in case. Evidently, Tanner had seen something in the yard a few days before. One of their pigs had been ripped up, half-eaten. They assumed it was just some big cats or coyotes, even though they didn't usually fuck with live animals. Tanner went upstairs, packed his stuff, and told his dad they would be okay without the rifle because coyotes avoid people. And they started walking back towards where we were camping. Rooster finally stops crying and shaking. The girl had already, but was now just staring out the window with a dumb look on her face. Says they'd gotten halfway into the woods towards camp when they started to hear shit from the forest. It was almost pitch black by this time, so they weren't sure at first what the fuck it was. The girl says she heard something in the bushes right off the trail. They all beamed their flashlights over there, and there was something standing in the woods, in a little hollow. Rooster said they shouted at him and told him that he was scaring the fuck out of them and what a dick he was. He says that's when they realized that the guy was facing away from them. They keep walking, and they start smelling the nasty, coppery ozone smell. They say they look off into the opposite side of the forest. There's a dude standing there too, backwards, but slightly closer to the path. So now they start power walking. And Tan keeps going, I should have taken the fucking rifle. As they're telling the story, the smell's super strong, even inside the cabin. They said that after they started walking faster, a kind of low gibbering had began coming from both sides of the woods. As they booked it back to the trailer, the girl said she flashed her light out to the side of them and saw something jerking itself through the woods. The gibbering got louder and louder, and when they could see the light of our campfire, something had come out of the woods about 40 yards behind them onto the track. And they just flat out ran as hard as they could to the trailer. So, we're out in the fucking woods. We're assuming at this point some redneck's trying to fuck with us. All of a sudden, my other cousin, Junior, starts going on about how he went to school with a native kid that was telling him about the Goatman or some shit. Promptly tell him to shut the fuck up because we don't need any spooky talk right now. But he keeps going on and on about the fucking Goatman and how we're in his woods and blah blah blah. Now, at the time, I'd never heard of this Goatman or anything like that, but a couple years ago, the year before I graduated from college, I had a minimum for a roommate, and I ended up asking him about it. And to sum it up, it's basically a fucking man with the head of a goat, and he can shapeshift. Get among groups of people and terrorize them. It's also supposed to be kind of like the Wendigo. It's bad mojo to even talk about, and even worse if you see it. Keep in mind, I didn't know this back then when I was 16, so my cousin said, the Goatman's gonna get in and fucking get us. The girls are all terrified, and my cousins and I are fucking trying to figure out if it's just some hillbillies or an animal. All of a sudden, the smell just goes away. To this day, I haven't even experienced anything like it. Obviously, smells usually fade away or lessen, but it literally was just there 1 second and not the next. So it's after an hour, making it around 9 or 10. We've stopped shitting bricks enough to go back outside and stoke the fire again. I figured it was just some assholes trying to fuck with us, so we don't need to go back home because I think if we do, they'll chase us through the woods or some crazy shit. Nothing else weird happens that night. We stay another night, and for the main part of that night, nothing happens. But at about 1 in the morning, we're outside, getting drunk and telling ghost stories. As someone is finishing some too spooky story, I don't remember what about, the smell comes back. It's so fucking strong that one of the girls literally starts vomiting. I stand up and you can feel how clammy the air is. I say we should get inside and that this isn't right. We should have just fucking left. We all go back inside and we're standing around. My cousin keeps going on and on about how it's the Goatman. My other cousin Rooster tries to shut him the fuck up, and all the while I'm just feeling something's wrong. And I can't figure out what the fuck it is. We ended up sitting in there for a while. The smell's just as strong, and we're terrified and all huddled in this camper. We end up cooking some brats for everybody because nobody wanted to go outside. It's one of those packs of 4 brats. We have a total of 3 packs. I grill them up on the stove and I give everybody a hot dog and get mine. After a while, one of my cousins gets up and goes over to the pot to get another one. He starts grumbling about how I got 2 brats and everyone else got 1. And I look at him like he's fucking stupid. Tell him everybody only got 1 because there were only 12 brats. That if he wanted more, he should open up a new pack and cook some more. That's when the girl that had been out with Rooster and Tan just starts screaming, "Oh Jesus, oh Lord, get it out." She's crying and shivering, and then it dawns on the cousins standing up what the fuck is wrong. Me and him both glance around the room, and I feel my heart fucking sink. I run the fuck out of the cabin and the girl runs with us. The trailer door is banging against the side of the trailer and everybody pokes it out. One of my cousins asks us what the fuck is wrong and I start counting us. There's only 11 now. I shit you not, my cousin verified. There had been 12 people in the cabin, but being that everybody didn't really know each other really well, nobody had noticed the whole fucking time that there was an extra person, and then I realized that I had kind of noticed something was off. You know when you're just sticking around having a good time, that you don't sweat the small shit, and you don't always keep track of certain stuff. I'm dead sure someone else had been in the trailer with us, and that they had been there for at least a fucking day, eating with us. What makes it worse is that I couldn't figure out who it was, because I don't think anyone ever interacted with the person, or the Goatman. The girl kept praying to Jesus, and we're all sitting outside. Eventually, we get a big-ass sticks and go back into the cabin, but there's nobody there. We count again. There's 11 people. We go back into the trailer and lock the door. We explain what the fuck happened. The girl says she realized too, and that when she was about to say something, the person sitting next to her had grabbed her leg hard, leaned over towards her, and said something she couldn't understand. So we are pretty much scared as fuck as we huddle together and I fall asleep. I wake up, the sun is just coming up, and half the people are asleep and the other half are packing their shit up. We all want to walk back home, but like 4 people want to stay until the sun's all the way up. And some people think that we're just fucking around, still want to stay at the trailers. Just want to get the fuck out of the woods. The girl's name was Kira, the one that the Goatman had touched. Anyway, I asked her if she really thinks it was something bad, and she says she just wants to go home. She just wants to be out in the woods alone for another night. So we decide to split up. The 4 that want to go can go, but I have to stay, because I have the keys to the cabin, it's my uncle's, and I have to lock up. I'm super pissed at this point because I feel like people aren't taking this shit seriously, and I definitely didn't want people to be out in the woods for another night. I spend the rest of the day trying to convince the rest of the group, now 4 girls, 4 guys, to get the fuck out of Dodge. Tanner leaves with them to go get a rifle and says he's going to be back. So there are just 7 of us left by 4 p.m. At around 5 p.m., he hasn't made it back yet. And we're getting extremely fucking antsy. The reason I stopped begging them to leave was because he went to get a gun. At about 5:30 p.m. or so, the one cousin that did stay says that the girl Kira is outside. I look outside, and sure enough, she's standing by the fire pit with her back to the cabin. I'm thinking to myself, if she was so fucking scared, why the hell would she come back? And then I get this nasty feeling in my gut. Keep in mind, the whole time the coppery smell's been gone, but now I realize I can smell just a twinge of it. I say this to the rest of them. Everybody, and these are people that wanted to stay in the fucking woods after we had a goddamn Goatman in our mix, Everyone's laughing at me, asking if I set this up to scare them. And I'm looking at them like I am not fucking bullshitting you right now. I asked them, why the fuck would I play that? So one of the girls goes outside to get Kiara. She gets halfway to her and stops cold. Kiara starts heaving. I don't know how the fuck to describe it. Sort of like if someone had their back turned and was laughing without actually making any sound. It was this fact that made me realize that there was not a fucking sound in the whole woods. It was dead, silent. This was like late September, so it's all fairly hot all the time, but super chilly some days too. You could usually hear big-ass geese honking, some kind of birds or squirrels chit-chatting. Step out the door and tell the girl to come back in the fucking trailer right goddamn now. She backs up into it and we lock the fucking door. We pull down the shades except for one and put a guy there in the chair to watch Kiara. She stands there for another 20 minutes or so. Eventually the guy turns to say she's still there and there's a huge fucking bang on the door. We all jump the fuck up and scramble around the living room of the trailer. The banging is super loud. My cousin is holding one of the girls, and the other two are kind of giggling with nervous laughter, and the other two guys are shitting bricks. Then we hear Tan screaming, "Let me the fuck in! Stop fucking playing!" Go to the door and open it, and he stumbles in with a rifle. There's nobody else outside. Evidently, he'd walked up to the campsite. Nothing weird happened in the forest, but he had seen a girl. Mind you, he said it was not Kira standing there. When he had gotten to the edge of the clearing, he had turned toward him with a slack-jawed look and just stared him down, slowly tracking him as he walked around the outside of the clearing towards camp. He said it wasn't till he was almost halfway to the trailer that he'd realized that she was getting closer to him. She stared off by the fire. Without him seeing her move, she had been turning, inching closer. So he just ran the rest of the way back to the cabin, thinking he would open. He got there and the door was locked. He turned and it was about half the distance to the door. He looks around the room and gets super pale. He pulls me to the side and whispers in my ear, "You know, there's only 7 of us in here, right?" I get that feeling where your stomach drops to your nuts. And he'd been back inside the trailer while we were sorting out who was going where. And then when all went outside to talk earlier in the day, it just slipped right back in. We look out the window and there's nobody there. So we recount. And then I go over and ask everyone how many people were here earlier. And everybody says 8. I say, well, how many are here now? They all do the count and realize there are now only 7 people in the cabin. Tan had brought back a couple of boxes of ammo and his rifle. He told his dad that there was some kind of animal in the forest because he didn't think he would believe him if he said it was the Goatman. He says that his cousin is supposed to be coming down in a few hours, and that in the morning we can all go back to his place and his cousin will drive us home. No, I'm really fucking terrified. I at least feel better because we can be American and shoot the fuck out of whatever it is if it comes back. But then my cousin gets into this huge argument with one of the girls because she thinks that I'm trying to be funny and prank them, and she's getting really scared and thinks I'm not funny. It keeps telling her that I'm not that kind of person. She says, "Well, how do you know the girl wasn't just Tanner in a wig? Or if it's really the Goatman, how do we know this is the real Tanner and the Goatman didn't just kill Tanner in the woods and take his gun?" So we get into a huge fucking argument about this. For me and Tanner, like, we could seriously be in danger because at the very least someone has been sneaking themselves into our fucking trailer without us knowing and mingling with us. And at worst, something bad is in the forest with us. One of the girls is crying and saying she wants to go right now. We're trying to tell her we shouldn't because none of us are walking through the woods in the middle of the night. At this point, the sun is starting to go down. It's getting a little bit cloudy out. We eat something, turn on the radio for a while, but we can't really get a station out here that's anything decent. So we turn it off, and about that time, Tan's cousin shows up. He was like 19, I think. Now the sun is just barely over the horizon, and he has one of those heavy-duty lantern flashlights and another rifle. He walks up to the trailer, and we whisper to Tan, asking if he's sure that's his cousin. He says yes. Guy looks behind him and all around the camp, and then walks inside, and he kind of glances at all of us and looks a little confused. He says, "Where's your other little buddy at? I figured she would meet me up at the cabin. Is she a little slow or something?" He also asked whether we had been cooking blood in the cabin because he smelled like blood and hot pans all the way up to the trail. And we're like, nope. We asked him what the fuck he's talking about, the girl he saw. He had come down the same trail Tan had been using when he found one of Yu's guys' buddies standing in the middle of the trail looking at him slack-jawed. He had asked her a bunch of questions, but all she did was just look at him. And she smiled. And he said he kept walking. She couldn't seem to keep up with him and kept lagging a little behind. Said he asked her if she was hurt or something and if she needed help, but she continued to stare. Eventually he turned around a bend in the trail, but when he went back to see if she was okay, the trail was empty. He assumed she'd taken some shortcut through the woods by our trailer. We tell him the whole story of what's been going on. I half expect him to say we're full shit, but he just listened, sat down on the couches in the living room. Tanner's cousin gets back to the girl. He says that she had kept trying to lag behind him, and it kind of weirded him the fuck out. So he tried to keep her in front of him, but no matter how slow he walked, she was always lagging a little behind. He smelled this nasty smell. It got stronger as he got into camp, until he got really strong. She had sensed something really low that he didn't catch. When he had turned around, she had been right the fuck up on him. He stepped back from her, because at this point he asked her if she was okay. If she wasn't, he offered to carry her back the rest of the way. She just kept staring. He reached out for her, as in to grab her on the shoulder. He must have misjudged the distance, because she was off to the side where he had put his hand. Like she had moved while he was looking dead at her. So at this point, we know this shit's real. Unless Tan is playing jokes, which we can tell he's not, because he's also pissing his pants. We load up their rifles, we eat some more, and we just kind of sit around until about 11. To this fucking day, every time I think about it, I really pray to God. I hope that it's some huge prank that my cousins played on me, and I just never revealed. So at this point, we know this shit's real. Unless Tan's playing a joke, which we can tell he's not, because he's almost pissing his pants. They load up their rifles, we eat some more, and we just kind of sit around until about 11. To this day, every time I think about it, I really pray to God that it's some huge prank that my cousins played on me and just never revealed, so I would shit myself for the rest of my life. At around 11, the stink of copper turned into an actual gross blood-like smell. Like cooked blood and singed hair. Dan and his cousin, Reese, get the fuck up instantly and grab their rifles. There's a half knocking, half clawing at the door, and I shit you not, there's this voice. It sounds like when you see those YouTube videos of cats and dogs whose owners teach them how to talk. It says in this halting, weirdly toned voice, "Let me the fuck in. Stop fucking playing." It made my fucking nuts creep up against my body, and one of the girls just starts crying and calling for Jesus. It was so fucking obviously not a person talking. It didn't have the right cadence. That's something that I never realized until this moment, but all people have a certain cadence when they talk, no matter what language. All people have certain rhythm of talking. The shit didn't have any kind of cadence or rhythm. One of those YouTube cats. That's what the fuck it sounded like outside the door. It sounded like this, almost just not funny. Sorry for being on a tangent, but if you can't imagine how this shit sounded, then you can't imagine how fucked up this whole situation is. So now I'm on full terror mode. We keep yelling, "Who is it? Stop fucking around, man." And it just keeps saying in or let me the fuck in for almost 15 minutes. And then the smell goes away for a while, and for the next hour or so, you can hear someone basically creeping around in the woods and shit. Every couple of minutes, it comes back to the door and says something. Finally, the smell fades away at about 2 in the morning. Reese says, "Man, fuck this," and opens the door and walks outside with his rifle. Fires a shot into the air and says something to the effect of, "In the name of Jesus Christ, go away." He fires 2 more. And then from the woods, right up against the river, across from the trailer, it sounded like something is slowly gibbering and hooting. And it starts screaming. And it sounds almost like a woman and a cat in a bag screaming together. Like, I seriously have never heard any shit like this. You can hear the brush over that way start to shake. Reese fires over in the tree line and then starts backing into the building. Lock the door and we can hear shit keening and screaming. Reese said something had come out of the bushes super low to the ground. It was crawling towards the cabin. He had shot at it. Pretty much that was how the rest of the night went. Literal constant screaming for the next 2 hours and shit moving out into the tree line. It never came back up in the cabin until everyone had finally fallen asleep. Dan had been sitting at the door watching it with his rifle. Nobody else heard or saw this, and he told me 2 days later after the whole thing. Said he had been nodding off after the screaming noises finally stopped. He'd been almost asleep when he saw someone come out of the bathroom and lay down in the middle of the floor and go to sleep. He just assumed it was one of us, and that the guy nodded off. Then he said he kind of realized something that was wrong, and while pretending to be asleep, counted us. There were 9 people in the cabin. He didn't want to try and shoot the fucking thing and have it kill all of us. And there, or to have Reese wake up and start shooting and us kill ourselves. So we ended. He just stayed awake all night, pretending to be asleep. He said sometimes it would stand up and kind of do this weird jittery thing, or heave like it was laughing. Then it would lay back down. The story closes pretty weak from my perspective. Nothing happened. When we woke up, I noticed that Tan was a little jittery. He was avoiding looking at all of us, but we ate some breakfast, packed up, and started walking to his house. He stayed last in the cabin, said he'd lock up and bring me my uncle's keys. Told us to just start walking and I'd catch up, which I didn't really want to fucking do. Got a little bit up the path when he came running up. We just jogged back up to his house. His cousin took us home. There was a window in the bathroom. Dad had gone back to lock up and looked in there. We were too stupid to lock a screenless window. And it was fucking up when he went in there. Guessing it had been doing all that all along. Waiting for us to fall asleep or slip up and then get in among us. It walked with us all the goddamn way back to his house. And he said it lagged into the back of the group, looked him dead in the eyes, before walking back into the woods.